Hello, everybody. More Christmas today, even though it was 90 plus degrees here. Tonight we are reading The Smallest Elf. Of all of Santa's elves, Elwyn was the smallest. Not only was Elwyn on the small side, but he was also not very handy in the workshop. Even though he tried his best, and even though Santa was very patient with him, Elwyn still couldn't quite get the hang of this toy-making business. His dolls turned out cockeyed, his stuffed animals were a mite lumpy, and the cars and trucks he made all had wobbly wheels. "I've got a splendid idea," Santa finally said. "Why don't you help Mrs. Claus in the kitchen?" So Elwyn helped Mrs. Claus make cookies and Christmas candy. He served hot chocolate to the elves at their workbenches, and he spent his off-duty hours toasting his toes by the hearth and staring into the fire. One evening, as Elwyn sat toasting his toes, Santa and Mrs. Claus were going through the mail. There were the usual requests from children for this or that for Christmas. The Clauses sorted the mail into piles. There was a doll pile, a train pile, a plane pile, a stuffed animal pile, a skate pile, both ice and roller, and a miscellaneous pile. "Oh, no," said Santa, sighing as he opened a letter and read it. "What is it, dear?" asked Mrs. Claus. "I'm afraid it's not good. It's that boy named Luke. He says he's very sorry, but he doesn't want anything for Christmas this year." "Not anything?" Mrs. Claus sputtered. "That can't be." "You remember our little Luke. He's the one whose parents are so very busy. I'm afraid our little Luke might be a bit lonely and a little bit sad this Christmas." Frowning, Santa went off to bed to sleep on the matter. By early the next morning, Santa had a plan. He called all the elves together in the workshop. "Elves, I am announcing a contest. Mrs. Claus will award a very special prize to the elf who can create the toy that will make little Luke a happy boy." The elves began to buzz with excitement. There is nothing an elf likes so much as a good contest. They set to work immediately. Ella made a choo-choo train that stopped at crossings and puffed real blue smoke. Elton made a stuffed horse with a real leather saddle and a silver bridle that jingle-jangled. Effie made a dump truck that went beep-beep when it backed up and bing-bing when it tipped its dumper. Emmett made a rocket ship that really flew and transformed in five easy steps into a planetary exploration vehicle. Each elf worked hard to make the toy that would pull little Luke out of his slump, but not Elwyn. Elwyn sat by the fire toasting his toes, and as he sat by the fire, he stared into the flames, and as he stared into the flames, he saw something there, for as everyone knows, Santa's fireplace is magical. Did you know that? Provided you take the time to stare into it. And it was in those flames that he saw exactly what it was that little Luke wanted for Christmas. On Christmas Eve, there was the usual hubbub in the loading dock, with Santa and the elves piling all the toys into the sleigh. As Santa Claus kissed the missus goodbye, Elwyn, who was not on sleigh duty this year, stowed away in Santa's sack. And off they went with a whoosh and a jingle into the snowy night, with a sack full of toys, and Elwyn, too. When they came to the chimney at little Luke's house, down they went. The elves immediately set to work stuffing the stockings, while Santa placed beneath the tree the special presents he hoped would make this Christmas a happy one for little Luke. But Elwyn had his own work to do. He tiptoed up the stairs, past the room where little Luke's parents slept, past the room where little Luke slept, and up into the musty, cold, old attic. There, in a dusty corner, he found what he was looking for. Covered in cobwebs, with one eye missing, its fur worn smooth and its nose loved nearly off, was a teddy bear. Elwyn waited until the last elf had disappeared up the chimney. Then he set the bear under the tree. It looked a bit forlorn there, so Elwyn took the hat off his own head and put it on the bear. It was a perfect fit. Then Elwyn scooted up the chimney and boarded the sleigh, just as it headed northward. Christmas morning, Luke came downstairs slowly. His parents sat and watched as he opened one marvelous present after another. "Very nice," he said dully as he unwrapped the choo-choo train. "Very nice," he said as he unwrapped the stuffed horse. "Very nice," he said as he unwrapped the dump truck and the rocket ship. "What's the matter, Luke?" asked his father. "Don't you like all these wonderful presents that Santa brought you?" "I'll bet the elves worked awfully hard," said his mother. Then Luke saw something else under the tree, something that wasn't wrapped, something wonderful. "Look at this neat old bear, Mom! Look at this great old bear, Dad!" he cried. "Isn't that your old teddy, dear?" Luke's mother asked Luke's father. "Yes, but I thought I'd lost it years ago." "Looks as though somebody found it," she said with a smile. "Don't you like your other toys?" Luke's father asked. "Oh, sure," said Luke, "and I know just who to give them to." "Who?" his parents asked. "To the kids who have no homes and no chimneys and no trees this Christmas." Luke's parents stared at Luke, then at each other. "This is a pretty wonderful boy we have here," said Luke's mother. "Let's make a resolution," said Luke's father, "to spend more time together in the coming year. Okay, Luke?" But Luke wasn't listening. He was hugging his bear and staring into the flames of the fire. Meanwhile, back at the North Pole, the elves were staring into Santa's fire, for it was in those magical flames that they were able to watch Christmas morning as it happened in all the homes they had visited the night before. This morning, they paid particular attention to the goings-on in little Luke's living room. They watched in utter astonishment as Luke unwrapped, without a glimmer of enthusiasm, the choo-choo, the horse, the dump truck, the rocket ship. And then Luke snatched up that worn-out old bear. Well, those elves were so surprised you could have knocked them over with a snowflake. "How did that bear get there?" asked Emmett. "Who put it there?" asked Ella. "And where did it get that hat?" Effie wanted to know. Santa paced among the elves, inspecting heads. Every elfin head was covered with an elfin hat, until he came to Elwyn. "And where is your hat, Elwyn?" Santa asked with a merry twinkle in his eye. Elwyn stared bashfully at the floor. "Oh, Mrs. Claus," Santa Claus sang out, "I think I know who deserves that special prize." Elwyn unwrapped the prize. Inside was a hat, a very special hat, knit by Mrs. Claus' very own hands. Proudly, Elwyn tried it on. And of course, it was a perfect fit. Thanks for reading. Merry Christmas. Have a good night.